Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Record Breakers. I'm PETEY Rave, your man with no plan, and occupying the top left corner. Here with me, as of course, is my team. Of course, is my team. All on screen, all at the same time. We've got over there, we've got Brett.
Boogity, 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 amen.
Down here, we've got Patrick.
What's up, fools?
And over in the other corner, we've got Drew.
Hey, how's it going?
Yes. We're all here gathered to talk about music. And the provider of said music this week is none other than Brett. Brett, what do you got for us this week?
Well, I did Record Breakers the sniper job where I stole one of Drew's albums from him. So we're gonna go to a state that's
and he
just
didn't say swiper, no swiping.
We're going to go to a state that's just east, my neighbor to the east, to an area that I'm not familiar with that much. I know somebody in this room is. We're going to talk about Devo and their album Freedom of Choice.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting album to say the least. Drew, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
I expected it to be fucking Devo. No. I expected to get some new wave goodness, some punk tinged music, as it were, a lot of synth, maybe some good guitar, some driving bass lines, maybe some staccato vocals was what I was expecting, a bit of Akron underground punk flavor from it. So I don't know if maybe my expectations for what Devo was on the money or not. I guess we will see.
We will see in the next segment. Patrick, what were your expectations coming into this album?
It's Devo. They are firmly, I think, the kings of the weird side of new wave, and I don't mean that in an offensive manner. They just kind of make weird music, but like in a good way. So I know who Devo are. I've listened to a couple of Devo albums, many of the songs on this included. So I kind of knew what I was getting into.
Mm-hmm. Brett, how would you describe this album musically? What would be the themes and elements?
Elements and themes. I'm gonna switch things up. I'm gonna put those. There's something very special about being a teenager who just got his driver's license and went to Sam Goody and was like, I need to listen to some Devo. There's some Devo. Let me purchase some Devo. And then you're like, it's like those bad PSAs about doing drugs once and then turning into a junkie. I turned into a weird noise junkie, and this is some weird, silly noise junk. If you want to shoot some weird junk into your veins, that's not drugs, but it's music. You get some of this. There's synthesizers. Synthesizers, everybody. Synthesizers. In the prime of synthesizers being something that was hip and cool for, pop musicians. But it also came at a time that you could do sort of the biting criticism of punk rock, but do it in a much more digestible and fun to listen to, not record in a basement sound. That with every Devo song, you can sort of guarantee that there's going to be big voice, which you get some big voice. It's a different kind of big voice than like a Lady Gaga big voice, but it's big voice nonetheless. But you always get a great bass line and a driving beat. It really does follow a lot of like the punk rock formula of songwriting, but they always throw in a really, really good bridge into their songs. It kind of fattens up the songs a whole lot more than just your standard, I wrote this after smoking a weird smelling cigarette. But they did a really good job of using a simple song structure and using all of the tools that they had at their disposal and not overstaying the welcome of any weird noise that they threw out there.
Mm-hmm. Drew, how would you describe this album musically?
I would just like to do a victory lap for being from the Kent Akron area. I think Devo is probably one of the greatest exports of this area. And that's me, as I said pre-show. I say that being a basketball fan and knowing exactly who currently lives in Bath Township. So there's something about them that's just fantastic. I think Mark Mothersbaugh is one of the great musical minds in punk rock. I think he's one of the great minds, period, in punk, like that sort of punk subset there. I was actually thinking about it. I really wish, I wrote it in my notes, I kind of wish him and Greg Graffin would do like a podcast or something together. Just like some sort of political commentary type of podcast or something like that. I think it would be really cool. The synthesizer stuff, to me, exemplifies what new wave is and can be. There's something just fantastic about it. There's great hooks. There's really a lot of fun to it. The vocals, I think what Brett was getting at, I think is really key here. The vocals are distinctive, and the vocals are exactly what this style of band and what Devo needs, but they're never what somebody would call a beautiful vocal. You would never mistake this for pretty. The staccato vocals, though, that style, the fluctuations in it and stuff like that, is something that does become sort of big and large, but it fits it. The bass work is great. It provides punch and accents to a guitar that I think that at times would get lost within the mix with all the synth work going on. But that underlying bass drive gives it enough oomph to get through that. Alan Myers, the drums are good. Don't get me wrong. But nothing ever wows you about the drums. But in a band like this, if the drummer was going ape shit, like it would, like, everything would go haywire because there would be too much. There's a lot of musical diversity here while still staying very squarely in the new wave aesthetic, and that's, to me, what's great. They bring in some Rubber City into it. They bring in other influences, but to me, Devo is like the band I point to when, like, why is new wave fun? Have you listened to Devo? Have you listened to Freedom of Choice? Have you listened to this band and what they can do? Mm-hmm. And Freedom of Choice is kind of them in a nutshell. It's great.
Well,
I can't say more about it.
We have listened to Devo, and Patrick has listened to Devo specifically. And what how would you describe this album musically? What was your reaction?
So this is what, 1980, 1979, like right at the beginning. Yeah, right at the beginning of new wave. So music prior to this, and I'm thinking of the late 60s and early 70s, was made by like painfully cool people. Robert Plant, he could be in the front of any band and he would still be cool. You know, Pete Townsend or Roger Daltrey, like those guys were cool. Devo was a bunch of nerds from Cleveland who had synthesizers and wrote clever songs.
No.
Oh, they're from Kent. Sorry.
They're from Kent and Akron. They are not from Cleveland. Ohio has more than Cleveland and Columbus. Fuck you.
No, it also has Cincinnati.
God damn it. I just
fuck Cincinnati.
Nobody cares about Cincinnati.
Yeah, fuck Cincinnati.
Nobody cares about Cincinnati.
Yes,
like,
right.
I just went over about how great of an export from Kent/Akron they are.
I know.
And like, fucking damn it, you ruin it with Cleveland.
You stirred the pot, Swagger.
Okay, there's some dorks from Ohio who had some synthesizers and could write really clever songs that were really entertaining, and they just embraced being kind of weird and rolled with it. And that, like, so much good music came out of Devo breaking that ground of not needing to be cool to be a rock star. And I mean, this is where they did it. Go watch the video for Whip It. It's fucking weird. Yes. It's intensely weird, but it's a good song. Mm-hmm. And it worked. And that's, that's probably how a lot of people remember them. But like I imagine for, the bands that followed that I think really took up, this sort of thing, like bands like They Might Be Giants, they saw that, like, they're not so different from us. Maybe we should actually go make music. And that it's to me like their impact as that is almost more important than the music, which is fun. And I love synthesizers and I love this era of music. So I'm already going to enjoy it. But just that, like, you didn't have to be like have some crazy long mane and sing in an incredible falsetto to be a rock star.
It doesn't hurt.
Is good. No, it doesn't hurt. It's the easy way. Like I said, you could put Robert Plant in front of any band ever, and they would be amazing because he had that thing.
Dishwalla.
Yeah, put Robert Plant. They would have had more than one hit. And
could you tell me all your thoughts on Dishwalla?
In a future episode.
Yes, future episode. I will give my thoughts because I have thoughts. And
back to you,
know what?
Petey.
Back to me. I won't speak like Charlie Brown's parents. I will speak clearly.
Cut it out. Stop
Yes, sorry. Yes. Brett, what would be some of the key tracks for this album? Some of the key tracks to zero in on.
I'm going to try and distill this down to just a few choice songs. Girl You Want is one of the songs on this album that really have the drive and the punch that you can tell a little bit about what influenced Devo coming in lyrically, which I'm not a lyrics guy, but it does seem something that is relatable by a large swath of the OG Devo listenership. And it has what I really like about Devo songs is it's just a very simple song, but they really changed the gears and go into this really neat bridge. And it really brings the song together, like a fancy rug brings room. But Freedom of Choice is by far, it's one of my favorite songs ever by anyone. It's got a great, it's a chord progression that every punk rock band has written a song to. I mean, it's the same progression, but done in such a weird, funky Devo way. And it has by far one of the most cool choruses of any song ever. That song is a very underrated compared to what everybody knows of Devo 4 track. And I really like That's Pep. The song matches the title. It's got a fun groove. It does that some really weird stuff with the instrumentation that you thinking back, I don't know of anything that did that stuff before this album. The synth swells, that jangle guitar, which I am a sucker for a Telecaster any day of the week, especially in places where it shouldn't be, which this album is a very, very tinny, high-pitched album to begin with. There's even the low end sound a little bit, I don't know, it just hangs out in like, it's almost like a ska album or something. It's like things hang out up high, but you get like the weird low stuff that sort of lays the foundation. This thing could have needed a Les Paul to fatten things up, but it didn't. So the thing that fattens things up is the vocals, and you can go through this album piece by piece and dissect everything. And the stuff that you think is genius is probably something they just figured out on the fly in the studio. But I think that they really put at least those 3 songs together about as well as you can put a song together.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Well, what do I say an opening track should do? Should introduce you to the band. Driving bass? Check. Great, catchy synth? Check. Staccato vocals? Check. I'm not even lying when I say that I put relatable but satirical lyrics. Check. Welcome to Devo. Have at it. I'm going to talk about Whip It because, well, it's Devo.
Well, if you have a problem, when a problem comes along, you must whip it.
I must go ahead and whip it. It's instantly catchy. It's instantly memorable. the whip crack sound effect makes me personally laugh every single time I hear it because like I know what happened when they were writing that song and they were like, oh, when we record this, we have to add a whip.
Kind
we
of like
have to
Sir
add a whip.
Mix-a-Lot had. Sir Mix-a-Lot took that whip and used it to his advantage.
Used it well, and they use it well here.
I don't think he would have done it if it weren't for Devo. He brought the whip to the forefront.
Devo did bring a musical whip to something that really needed it, and it was great. But this song in itself, like, makes me wonder about like bands in general. Like when Devo was listening to playback of this in the studio, I wonder if they knew that they had something special on their hands and they had something that was like gonna be memorable all these years later. Because even for people who don't know the band Devo, they know Whip It. Like you don't not know Whip It. Like that. Did Tommy Two Tone come out of the studio realizing that 8675309 was going to be a hit? Did they know?
8675309, parenthetical Jenny.
Jenny.
Yes. Yeah, can't forget Jenny.
Is that the girl you should turn to? But no, like it's just the recording of it was so good and like the song is so catchy. Do you walk out of the studio knowing that that's that catchy? Like, do you know, like, hey, maybe we have something special on our hands. People might really, really love this. I don't know. It's something fun that I wish I could be a fly on the wall for. But then Gates of Steel. I've got to talk about Gates of Steel because far and away, note for note, this is probably, I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably my favorite new wave song of all time. It is a song that is quintessentially Devo to me. It has a Rubber City sort of punk attitude to it, snarl to it, that the guitar tone like felt very like what the Rubber City Rebels and like the like sort of Akron punk scene was about at that point. You have the great synth line that is what Devo is. This by far is the song that puts the biggest smile on my face when it comes to Devo. I love Gates of Steel.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Get the obvious out of the way, Whip It. That's such a great pop song. It's endlessly memorable. It's absurd in the way that Devo is often absurd. It's got a great, like that synth line is so freaking like driving and perfect. And I mean, there's a reason people are still paying Devo money to use that song in commercials and movies and shit. Cause it is a really, really good song. And it's also a really like good time warp back to this era. Freedom of Choice is so good. It's a little more complete of a song than Whip It. And like, it sounds like 80s new wave, everything good about it without any of the bad. And it's a really good example. And the chorus is really, really good. And then near the end, there's a song called Mr. B's Ballroom. And I don't know why, but I love that song. It's just fun and weird and excellent. And it has woes. And it uses woes really well. And woes don't always get used well. And it has a good hook. And it throughout all of these, there's these super strong, synth melodies that you just latch on to, and they kind of make the songs and they build around that.
Yeah, some fantastic tracks there. We can kind of bring it back around the horn to kind of get your opinion. Drew, what would be your final word on Devo's Freedom of Choice?
When I say I am proud of my state, and I am proud of my area, and I'm proud of the things we can do. There are some things that come to mind as far as the rubber industry in Akron and the art college in Kent. But two bands come to mind, and it's the Rubber City Rebels, and it is Devo. And like I said before, I think Mark Mothersbaugh is, as far as musically speaking, is genius. there's just something special about Devo. And if you haven't heard more than just Whip It, you are doing yourself a personal disservice. I really truly believe that. I think Devo is one of the most fun bands out there, especially from this era. I think they are, the fact that they became sort of one of the faces of new wave, I think is something they deserve. Also, as Brett mentioned, the fact that one of them may be have a cartoon character modeled after them that he did music for the cartoon itself.
Talk about
Maybe
Chucky Finster.
Maybe a little bit. Yeah, if you're a kid that grew up on Rugrats and you thought the music and the sound of that was cool and you've never heard Devo, fix the fucking problem.
Rugrats, maybe Beakman's World.
Beakman's World?
Yeah.
Yes. Or maybe if you're even younger than that and you are a fan of Mark's Magical Pictures on Yo Gabba Gabba, maybe check out the band he was in that your parents might be really into.
Or your grandparents if you're that young.
Or your
Kind
grandparents.
of sad, but yeah.
You just terrified.
Also, if you're that young and listening to our podcast, why?
Drew, you do the math. You're getting old.
Yes.
Oh, fuck, I am getting old.
It just,
I wanna be old.
what I used to be with it. What I was with, isn't it? What's it?
Yes,
Strange
Grandpa
to me.
Simpson.
And
Have
it will
I-
happen to
Close
you.
Have I lost touch? No. It is the children who are wrong.
Yes.
That's right. Let's Simpson this
is-
whole show up.
Yes.
We're
I thought
making
we-
Simpsons references.
I thought that
think
last-
counts us as old.
I thought that last quote was Vince McMahon, but that's a whole other thing. But Patrick, what would be your conclusive thoughts on the album as a whole?
Go listen to Devo and appreciate that Mark Mothersbaugh exists, because he did the music for Rugrats, which is kind of a foundational show in my childhood, and I think a lot of people around my age who are into cartoons, like, that is one of the shows of our era. He scored like a whole bunch of Wes Anderson movies, and I enjoy a good weird Wes Anderson movie. He's done so much cool shit outside of Devo that you almost forget that once he was in this really great band called Devo, and you should listen to
Crash
that.
Bandicoot and the Jackson
Also-
and Daxter series. Jack and
Yep.
Daxter.
Yes. I'm gonna run this back a little bit. We're talking a lot
producing.
about how genius Mark Mothersbaugh is, and he was genius, like, from a composer level. That is not taking away from the rest of the band members who are all great.
Oh no, Devo
both-
as a whole were great. Mark
Yeah.
is just like, I'm saying, like,
Mark is the face of something that was fantastic.
yes.
I did it
Gerald
too, and I realized, and I was like, wait.
Mark
we're talking a lot
correctly
about-
surrounded himself with other talented people
Well,
and made
he
great
was-
music with them.
Yeah.
One of them might have been his brother. At the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, but like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Bob
the
Mothersbaugh.
Bob and Bob.
The production on this album should this could have been lost in the mix too as well.
Yes.
Like this album did a lot with the guys mixing it too. So it was a team effort. We came out. We did our best.
We were Diva.
We hope that we're looking at next week's game, not looking in the past. So yes,
Taking it one game at a time.
that's right.
Yeah. Brett, what would be your conclusive thoughts on the album?
There are very few albums that I can say that there is no reason not to listen to it, if only for the educational aspects of it. Even if you don't eventually enjoy the experience, having a knowledge of what Devo is and why Devo is a thing people talk about will educate you more about music and the period of time. You know, the early 80s is a weird time in music. You'll understand it slightly more. It's kind of a weird thing. It doesn't stand on its own. There's plenty of other weird stuff that happened in the early 80s, but the fact that it got mainstream acceptance it's in some level tells you where the music industry was, how DIY music was done, and how weird noises were marketable. And there are things that Devo did that made it so other people could do weirder, ridiculous shit. I have a feeling that without a Devo, Guar might not have been a thing. Definitely, they might be giants. Wouldn't have near as much of a template to look at and base things off of on the weird side. And even going in towards the late '80s, where people were writing just ridiculous lyrics over noise rock. The things sort of evolved from a point in the late '70s when everybody got sick of disco and synthesizers started being cheap. And I think you should go back and listen to at least to this album. You should have a couple of Devo albums laying around that you just pop in and you're like, man, my mom lived in a weird time, kind of a thing. But it won't hurt you. And, the strange sounds might actually get you a little bit of inspiration. Devo is timeless.
You'll get a D6 to use on your attack and save rolls.
Oh, a 1d6 plus 2, let's say.
Yeah. If you're playing a different edition, yeah.
I was like, he's going for the actual exact math of inspiration, I think.
I know on 5th edition is just the 1d6 and that's it.
Right.
And then
I think that was after 4th, maybe. It became. I don't know.
Also,
I was a rogue. Can I roll to check traps? That was pretty much what I asked our dungeon master.
Also, a bard
and
leveled
who
up
I was
to give
yelling
you
at. I
D10.
don't know. I don't know.
I learned that from watching Critical Role. That being said, enough D&D breakers.
I have things to say, but I'm not going to say them.
Yes. Critical Role is a fun show. You should check out. That being said, Devo. Those are our thoughts on Devo. Those are our conclusive thoughts. Now we get to the main event of the evening. What we've all been waiting for. We get to our haiku reviews. Let's see how we start this. I'll start with Drew. Drew, what is your haiku?
The new wave right here does all you could want of it. Perfect Kent music.
Patrick, what is your haiku?
Sounds of an era that transcend their origins. A very good band.
My haiku. Good quirky pop tunes with some good musicianship and will make you dance. That's about the best as I could do. Brett, what is your haiku?
Weird for the weirdos. Smarter than you think you are. Classic rock music.
Yes. That brings us, those are our thoughts on Devo. Go check it out. Go play Record Breakers, the home game. You can find it on our Spotify playlist if you haven't already listened to it. Go check it out there. On that Spotify playlist will also be our next week's record, which we were provided by none other than Drew. Drew, what do you got for us next week?
I was thinking about going with another Ohio band, just to sort of give a big old finger to Brett for taking probably one of my favorite Ohio bands, if not my favorite Ohio band. But I decided that instead of that, I would go into another band that I would consider very influential. As Devo was influential for New Wave, the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones were very influential for third wave ska. So we're going to do Let's Face It. Probably their biggest album.
Let's Face It. We'll talk about Let's Face It. And that will be for next week. Looking forward to that discussion. A little bit Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. A little bit Dickie going, the dude dancing, and the ska, and the fun. But that will be next week, and this is this week. You can, of course, find us all over the internet. Patrick is at The Swagger. Brett is at HibbittyBibbert, HIBBITYBIBBARD. Drew is at Xjuicer4X. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. If you want to email us, YouTube.com/RebelliTV. Subscribe to us on YouTube. I think we're tickling on 100. I would love to get to 100 by real soon. So that'd be a nice little benchmark for me. Maybe
For
pat
Petey,
myself on
we
the
do
back.
this show for us.
Yes,
But if you enjoy it,
yes.
enjoy it with us.
Let me get myself a pat on the back and say I've got 100 subscribers on something, and that'd be cool. But that's it. Do all the things: share, like, subscribe. Until next time. Hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo. Whoosh, whoosh.
Rawhide.